for us to take Q&As. And a lot of you have submitted questions. I did not pre-read the questions. I'm not filtering the questions. I'm going to read them the best I can. But what I will, okay. All right. But what I will do, if there is a duplicate question, I'll set it to the side. But I think we have the people in the room that can answer. So I'm just going to start at the top and move my way through. I'm trying to get to as many as possible and also leave room for a listening session because sometimes we know it's not a question. We just have a comment, a concern. We want to be heard. And so we want to allow room for that as well, but I'll start with the questions. And okay. We'll have about 2 minutes for each response. We got a timekeeper, we got a mic. If I could get someone to help pass the mic to someone who might be able to answer the questions as they come up. The 2019 plan is 6 years old. A lot has changed in East Knoxville since then, from different pressures to the AAERTF, that's the African American Equity Restoration Task Force framework. Why are we leaning on an old document instead of opening a new public input process now?
So thank you for that question. I think actually 6 years is a pretty short time. I know there's a lot that has changed, but I think the overall vision that was set forth in that plan for more park space, more 365-day use of the Chilhowee Park and facilities for athletics and recreation. I think those things still are much needed, and that's what we've heard from the community. But we're here tonight to listen and hear if there are other higher priorities than those things. So 6 years, I don't think things have changed that much for those big picture priorities. We're here to hear otherwise, if that's the case.
Your own RFP says the city prefers a long-term lease of this land and would only consider a sale as if you wrote the question here, as an option. Why are we pushing a permanent sale instead of a lease about this land in public ground?
Okay, good question. It's true, we would prefer to have a long-term lease. Just like other property owners, we want to hold on to our property. However, back in 2017, when this similar type proposal came for Lonsdale, the lease agreement was sort of drafted, and very shortly after, both Emerald and the city were sued by an organization called Freedom from Religion. And we thought that our law department and other people thought that litigation, that we were vulnerable in that case. And so the options were to walk away or to sell. And at that time, the city, I wasn't there at the time, chose to sell. And I think that, again, that's been a good investment in our young people in Lonsdale. And we think that while leasing would be our preference, that the same legal issues would arise if we did a sale versus a lease on this one.
They don't want to sell still out anymore.
All right, so this question is one that is pretty common, and I'm going to paraphrase it, but basically, is there anything in the contract between the city and Emerald so that you can't sell it again in the next 5 or more years to another private entity, and then that entity be able to do whatever they want with the property? There's also a note that the property will appreciate in value over time.
Thank you very much. My name is David Brace. I work at the city of Knoxville, who's involved in some of the negotiations. And so the agreement has a restricted period of 20 years. So the agreement requires that Emerald fully fund the $20 to $30 million investment, and that the restricted uses of health, wellness, recreation, and education must stay in place for 20 years. And so there is a right of first refusal. So if Emerald went out of business, if Emerald said we're done, they go bankrupt, the city has a repurchase option which is a valuation of the improvements on the property. So the city could buy it back if they do the repurchase. Again, a $20 to $30 million investment. There would be an appraisal, and 80% of that appraisal, the city could repurchase that facility, because it is a fully built recreation facility. And there is a right of first refusal if there was an offer through that restriction period. So the city has those protections. All of the cost of raising the dollars, building the facility, and then operating it are on our part. I hear that. After the restricted period of 20 years, yes. The property is then, again, at the very end, if they wanted to sell it after the restricted period, that is no longer in place.
The city purchased land for a firehouse for $700,000. Why are we selling a 100-year-old park for $900,000? The firehouse land was $482,000 per acre. The park land is valued at $75,000 per acre.
So a really good question. I know Allie is here from the News Sentinel. I've had a lot of discussions with them about this as well. So two things. One, when the city did the RFP, as it stated earlier, the first thing we said in the RFP is we'd love to lease this. Emerald came back, and based on what the mayor said and based on their donors, the city started to get into negotiations on the value and the sale of the property. We asked Emerald, you want to buy it, what do you think it's worth? You have a third-party appraisal. They said, give me a second. They said, yes, we do. And I said, I need to see it. So they handed it off to the law department and myself and others. We had just done an appraisal this same month, May of 2024. We had just done an appraisal on a parcel owned by my friend Scott with the fair within Chilhowee, within the Midway. So we had an appraisal right there that we'd already done. The same month that Emerald had done their appraisal, we had our real estate experts in the city compare those two. And the values were very similar. And so that was how we came up with the price. Let me jump in on the fire station here in just a second. And so we had two appraisals, and we compared those appraisals. The Emerald appraisal was actually a restricted appraisal. It was restricted to open space zoning, which if you're in the real estate business, you lose value. It's less valuable to be a park than to be a commercial or a residential use. The city's appraisal for the fair was actually appraised at fair market value for what it could be zoned, most likely to some type of housing use. And so those appraisals, we felt very comfortable in that negotiation with the sale price. Let me talk about the fire station. One, the appraisal acquisition of the fire station property was sometime later. Property does go up in value. We also had to have commercially zoned property in the heart of Burlington. We didn't have a choice. So there wasn't a lot of negotiating. We need commercial property. We need to build the first fire station in 30 years in Burlington. And so yes, the value of that was much more than what was negotiated at the Emerald site.
The mayor's recent property tax did not affect the park's value as well. Like everybody else, property tax is up to the property value. Does that impact the park's value as well? I'm just confused. Now we have a property increase and then the park's not part of that very well.
So, I think something similar to that question is in the stack. So why does the city need to sell the land? Is there a precedent set when the city has sold public park property in the past? This question has been answered about the assessed value, but I think the question on the table is why there was a need to sell. I think that was explained, but the question remained on this card, is there a precedent for when the city has sold public land? Public park land, thank you.
I can think of two examples, and maybe David can help me think of some others. One is back in the 80s, the city didn't sell, gave away to a nonprofit in World's Fair Park, a smaller plot of land, plus appropriated $1 million, and that went towards the construction of the Knoxville Museum of Art. Another example is in my own neighborhood. There was a playground at the site of a former full block area of the Macaulay School, and there was decision by the city. You know, nobody really cared about the land there much, and so they took it off of they decided not to have a park there anymore and sell off it parcel by parcel. And half of those parcels have been turned into infill housing, and half are still owned by private entities, but just vacant at the moment. David, are there some other examples?
So I think we talked about why the sale. I think it's important to just note there's been a lot of discussion about the city selling parkland. We add parkland all the time. Urban governments, Gulfport, Ohio. So there's a goal of adding park space and improving park space. I think what Chilhowee Park, the idea and the intent was to take a piece of property that had not been active as a park.
Why can't we have a public park with public access? But I think they mean, and you can correct me, why can't we have that public park? We've already heard we have one side
Well, I would say that Chilhowee Park is very important to our city and to all of you here and many more who are not here. This is been over 80 acres, Chilhowee Park, and the park that could potentially be sold to Emerald. People are thinking that as a loss to the community, but to me it's a gain. It's not just to me, to the people who have been part of supporting it, and Councilmember McKenzie has been part of these conversations too. You're not losing a park, you're gaining a programmed park facility that has support, that has athletics, that has development, and it has staffing and operations to support that. I would talk to the people in Lonsdale. There's more opportunity. It feels safer. And correct me if I'm wrong, Steve Diggs or Kaylee, Chelsea, the community of Lonsdale is allowed to use those facilities when they're not in the middle of a tournament or in sports. They're not locked up. There's a fence to keep the balls from rolling out, but you can walk on a Sunday morning and use those spaces for walking, for sports, and everything.
Hey, really quick, there's a picture of the park lot. Okay? That park, give me a second, that park has been managed as a public facility, like our convention center. It hasn't been necessarily managed like a park. The mayor, give me just a second. Just hold on a second. The mayor said, I want it to be a park, and that's why these transformations and investments are happening. And not managing like a facility.
All right, I'm going to move forward, and I really want to get to as many questions as possible. It would be helpful if you did submit a question or listen for the answers to your questions. We can get to more without the interruptions. Again, I understand the question, but I'm trying to get through this. Was community input? Thank you. Was community input invited in the process of selecting a bidder during the RFP process? No. They only have one proposal, but is community input invited? And you answer that, right? What is the plan for the fair, and have they been included?
There you go.
Thank you. fair to adopt a new 3-year contract. We're in the middle of year 2 of that contract. I know that I'm very excited about the Muse moving into the Jacob building. So I know that the Muse leadership and the fair leadership are happy to partner to think about how that space can be shared. I also know that there's a lot of people who support the fair, and I'll say right here publicly, we support you. You can stay in Chilhowee Park. You just have to evolve with the times and make sure that, again, the most common...
There you go. Woo!
The most common thing in the strategic plan is Chilhowee Park. People want Chilhowee Park to be active 365 days a year. The Tennessee Valley Fair is a 10-day event. I know it takes much longer than that to plan and prepare for it. But it is a 10-day event, and we want to plan an active, family-friendly destination for Chilhowee Park for all 365 days of the year. I think the Tennessee Valley Fair can be part of that. So that's up to their leadership to figure out with the other partners, the zoo, the Muse, and hopefully Emerald, to work together on that.
I'm Scott Chilhowee. I'm the executive director for the Tennessee Valley Fair. We've been out of Chilhowee Park for over 105 years.
Yep.
The fair built that park. We have not been included. I'll just say that. Not to the extent that we needed to be. If you go back and you look at the master plan in 2019, it said the fair's got to go. All right? All these plans right now, too, RFP, that say one word about the fair. Talk about the Muse, talk about the zoo, talk about Emerald Youth. If you understand, the fair owns property at Chilhowee Park. All right? So we still have, I think, I looked at it, about 15 to 19 acres outside of the Chilhowee Park, and still within inside Chilhowee Park. At one time, we had 1.6 acres in this 12-acre complex. So when we went to go ahead and negotiate with the city for our lease, we'd always been given a 5-year lease, pretty much automatic. We got stalled out back in 22, I think, for a stormwater survey. We got a 1-year extension. Bumped back up in 2023, got another 1-year extension because the city saw Emerald Youth coming down the road. The city and I had discussions, but we have never been included. So when we went to go back and negotiate with the city our lease, just in February 2024, we were told, if you do not sell that land, we want an RFP to come out in March. There's going to be no more fairs for 2024 or beyond. So, whatever it is, we don't have a fair plan in 2024. So we have to go ahead and sign away our lease and basically sell the land with the single one and the single deal.
But also the big question I see here is, why can't Emerald use another city-owned property?
The location of this property is key because it's close to a lot of families who would benefit from our services.
memos escalated that we are not able to control the interruptions. So this is what we'll do. One of the things as, please, excuse me?
No opinion from us.
No what?
No opinion from us.
Well, I think that's what you've been yelling after this whole time.
It's all kind of done.
But what I'm asking and what we thought about doing is taking the questions and putting out an FAQ. So that if you need to get your question answered, you'll have an opportunity to see that. The next thing we're going to do is have a listening session. So I wanted to save time for that. Because although Councilwoman McKenzie is under the weather, I see her feverishly taking notes. So she's trying to do that. You'll have an opportunity. And I would just want to share the time. All right, so if somebody has a question or they have a comment, if you